How many times have you studied a new language, felt amazing in the moment, and a few days later, it was all gone? You open your mouth and you can't speak. You listen to something and you can't understand at all. It's frustrating, right? You will start thinking, maybe I'm just not good at languages. Maybe I don't have the memory for it. But let me tell you something, brother. It's not your fault. You don't have bad memory. Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's trying to forget information that doesn't seem useful. There's actually a name for this. It's called the forgetting curve. And it's the number one reason most people fail to learn a language. You watch hours of YouTube videos, you memorize random vocabulary lists, you drill grammar rules, but then when it's time to speak, your mind just goes completely blank. I get it. I know how painful that feels because I've been there myself, believe it or not. Before I learned how to learn languages the right way, I was just like you. I was studying hard, forgetting fast, and thinking maybe I wasn't cut out for languages. But here's the thing. You don't need to be some kind of genius to learn a language. You don't even need to move abroad. You don't need 6 hours a day of studying. You don't need immersion. You don't need 15,000 hours of comprehensible input with YouTube videos. You don't need any of that nonsense. What you need is a system that works. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix this problem, how to stop forgetting what you learn. This has worked for me, as well as for thousands of students who now get results. I'm going to give you a simple, repeatable method I've used to learn 12 languages, a method that turns the forgetting curve into an advantage, so the words and sentences you learn actually stick. So if you've ever felt like you're stuck in that endless cycle of learning today, forgetting tomorrow, getting demotivated, quitting, starting all over again, you're going to want to watch this video all the way through, because once you understand how your memory really works and how to work with it instead of against it, language learning becomes 10 times faster and easier. My name is Mikel Telleria, and I'm a hyperpolyglot. I speak 12 languages, and I've created a fast and efficient language learning system at the Innovation Center of the University of Deusto, here in San Sebastian. Over the past few years, I've worked with students, entrepreneurs, government officials, professional athletes, and all kinds of language learners from all over the world. I've helped thousands of people, probably tens of thousands of people, learn languages fast, without wasting time. And I can tell you this, the reason most people fail at language learning isn't because they're bad at it, it's because they're using the wrong methods and not being consistent. It's because no one ever showed you how memory actually works. So let's fix that, shall we? Let's zoom out for a second and talk about how people actually learn a language. Let's talk about language learning as a whole. Because there's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of nonsense, a lot of bad advice, and if you follow it, you're going to be wasting your time. Here's the truth. Languages are not learned by memorizing endless grammar rules or filling little blanks on an app. That's the school model, and if it worked, you'd already be fluent in a language or two at least. You don't get fluent by reading grammar explanations and hoping that eventually you start speaking. And you don't get fluent by watching thousands of hours of Netflix or YouTube either, like some YouTubers are telling you to do. Don't do that. That's a waste of time. That's the big fad right now, this idea of comprehensible input. Just sit back, binge watch TV shows, Netflix, YouTube videos, and somehow eventually you'll be bilingual. If that worked, everyone would already be fluent in several languages. It doesn't work, right? What actually works is much simpler. You need to learn a lot of vocabulary, but not random words. 1,000 random disconnected words won't get you anywhere. What you really need are useful, high-frequency words. And even more important, relevant sentences. Whole phrases that you can pull out of your mouth in real situations. If you only know the word coffee in Spanish, you can't do much with it. But if you've practiced saying, "Me pones un café, por favor," you can walk into a cafe in Madrid and order like a real person. That's the difference. And if you know more sentences for that specific situation, then you can have an actual conversation. The way to organize all those sentences and to learn them is through what I call language islands. Think of an island as a safe little territory in your new language. Maybe one island is introducing yourself, so you learn to say your name, where you're from, what you do, etc. Another island could be at a restaurant, ordering food, asking for the bill, etc. Another one could be talking about each one of your hobbies or about your work. And you don't need to conquer the whole ocean at once. You just build one island at a time. So you learn everything you need to say in one specific scenario. High frequency scenarios. You learn that one and then you move on to another one, you learn that one as well. And you slowly build your archipelago of islands. A nice group of conversation topics and situations for which you've prepared a lot of sentences. Now, how do you actually learn those islands? Well, through repetition. Reading, listening, shadowing, and active recall. You start by listening to all those words over and over again, first while reading, then you simply listen to them while doing other things, and then you shadow them. You listen to them and repeat at the same time, trying to match the rhythm, melody, and pronunciation of native speaker audio. And after that, you try to say the sentences from memory. That's active recall. Your brain has to work a lot more to pull the sentences out without help. And that tiny bit of effort is exactly what locks it in. That's language production. That will help you think in the language and speak fluently. That beats any amount of so-called comprehensible input with YouTube. And with enough repetition, something amazing starts happening. Those sentences stop being things you're trying to study and they become things that you can say automatically. You're not thinking about grammar rules. You're not translating word by word. You're simply saying what you need to say. That's how you build fluency, one island at a time. But even if you do this right, there's still one huge obstacle in your way. And that's the forgetting curve. This is what really destroys most people's motivation. You study today, you feel confident, you say the sentence perfectly, but tomorrow half of it is gone and by the end of the week, the whole thing is gone. It's like you've never studied it. And you think, maybe I'm not smart enough for this. I've got a bad memory. Maybe I'm just bad at languages. A lot of people think like that, but that's not true. Your memory is perfectly normal. The problem is not you. The problem is the method. And specifically, the problem is consistency. And once you understand how memory really works, you can flip this whole thing around and make the forgetting curve your best friend. Let me show you how. Because whenever I say you can learn 30, 50, or even 100 new words a day, I always get the same comments by the same people. People rush in and say, that's impossible, you can't learn that many words, you'll just forget everything the next day. And sorry, but if that's your first reaction, you're not gonna make it. This tells me one thing. Either you haven't watched the whole video, or you don't have the capacity to understand what I'm saying here. You simply don't understand how memory works. So let me explain it properly. The forgetting curve is a concept that comes from psychology. Imagine you learn a new phrase today. Let's say in French, je voudrais un café, s'il vous plaît. The moment you study it, it's in your head. You feel like you know it. You think, perfect, got it. But here's what happens. Within 24 hours, your brain decides this new piece of information isn't essential, and it starts to fade. And by the next day, maybe half of the phrase is already gone. And in a couple of days, you have no idea how to say it. And this is the exact point where most learners give up. People start thinking that they don't have the memory for languages. They're not cut out for this. But that's not true. Your brain isn't broken. Your brain is doing exactly what it's meant to do. It deletes what it thinks you don't need to save energy. Forgetting is a feature, not a bug. So how do we fix this? How do we make sure that the sentences we learn don't just vanish overnight? The answer is very simple. Spaced repetition. And don't worry if this sounds very technical, it's really not. It simply means reviewing something at the right time. Or if you want to simplify it even more, reviewing it enough times for long enough. That's it. Here's a simple routine I use myself and that I teach all my students. Day one, when you learn a new batch of sentences, 100 sentences a day, for example, don't just go over them once. Listen to the audio file while reading, and when possible, also repeat them aloud. The whole list 5 to 10 times, at least. Ideally in 2 or 3 separate sessions during the day. Maybe once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once more before bed. That's enough to get the sentences into your short-term memory. During the first week, go back to those sentences every day. Put on the audio and listen actively. Shadow it. Repeat them aloud. And in increasingly longer sessions, because it's difficult in the beginning, and also try to say the sentences from memory. Don't just let it wash over you. Make your brain work. Use active recall. Then in weeks 2, 3, and 4, you can relax a little bit and just review those sentences every 2 or 3 days by simply listening to the audio files on repeat. You can do this while working out, for example. And finally, once you've been exposed to those sentences enough times, you only need to check in once or twice a week. And at this point, your brain has marked those sentences as important. The forgetting curve doesn't wipe them out anymore. You've locked them in. You'll remember them. And here's where it gets really easy. People imagine spaced repetition as hours and hours of boring study. Thousands of flashcards. It doesn't have to be like that. All you need is an audio playlist of all the example sentences. Put them on your phone, and when you're on the bus, when you're driving, you're walking, you're working out, you're doing whatever, you listen to them over and over again, every single day. Just press play and listen to them on repeat. You can review thousands of sentences this way, easily and without wasting time. If you do 100 new sentences a day like this, in a couple of months, you'll have thousands of ready-to-go sentences that you've learned that you're able to use in conversation. Imagine what that means. You walk into a meeting and instead of struggling to translate word by word in your head, the right sentence just comes out. You land in another country and you can order food, ask for directions, have a real conversation without any fear or hesitation. That's fluency. What's important is being able to say everything you need to be able to say, not knowing grammar rules and things like that. And this is exactly how I've learned 12 languages and how I've helped my students succeed even when they're busy, even when they think they don't have the time. Vocabulary in example sentences, language islands, lots of shadowing, active recall, and massive amounts of reviewing by listening. That's it. That's the system. That's how you stop forgetting words and you start speaking a foreign language fluently. So here's what to do next. Think big. Grab a set of 100 useful sentences that matter to your life, put the audio files on your phone, and listen to them and repeat them aloud 5 to 10 times. Morning, midday, and evening. Do the same thing with 100 more sentences tomorrow and 100 more the day after. For the first week, review them once a day. Weeks 2, 3, and 4, go back every couple of days at least. Then in months 2 and 3, just check in once or twice a week. And every time you listen to one of the sentences, it'll be easier to remember and easier to use actively in conversation. Do this consistently, and in 2 to 3 months, you'll have thousands of sentences in your head that you can use in conversation. So you won't have to think about grammar rules, you won't have to worry about forgetting anything, you'll just speak the language. If you're tired of forgetting everything you study, this is the solution. Use the forgetting curve to your advantage with spaced repetition and audio listening. That's the method that took me from 0 to 12 languages. If you want to try this today, there's a link in the description for the free 30-day challenge. You've got thousands of sentences with audio there you can use to test this system.